All right. Good morning, everyone. It is 9:31 a.m. and I would like to call to order the May 15th meeting of the STP Project Selection Committee. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please be sure to complete the sign-in sheet out in the hallway before you leave. Members of the audience that want to make a public comment later on the agenda can fill out comment cards also found in the hallway and hand that card to any of the CMAP staff in the room. This meeting is being broadcast on Zoom and is being recorded. In order for those online to hear what's being said in the room, it's critical that we all remember to use our microphones, and it is a best practice to identify ourselves when making a motion or a second. For those participating via Zoom, please keep your microphones muted unless you're called upon to speak. When appropriate in the agenda, I will request comments from those online, and you can indicate your desire to speak via the chat box. Staff monitoring Zoom will recognize you when it is your turn to speak. With that, let's start today with self-introductions of the members here at the table. I am Kiama Dobbs, Chair of the committee representing CMAP. To my right,
I am Tara Orban, representing counties.
John Paul Diplo, representing FHWA.
Chad Riddle, IDOT District 1 Local Roads.
Heather Mullins, Regional Transportation Authority.
Jeff Shriver, CDOT. Grant Davis, CDOT.
Ann Zhang, CDOT.
all right, thank you, everyone. We do have the necessary quorum. I do also want to recognize that Mayor Schalke was unable to join us in person today. He is participating online. He will not be voting or making motions, but he is there. So I just wanted everyone to know. And drum roll for Mayor Kukler walking into the room right now, representing the Council of Mayors. All right. With that, first item on the agenda is agenda changes and announcements. Staff does not have any announcements or changes. Does any member of the committee wish to make any announcements or suggest any changes? All right, seeing none, we have before us the draft minutes of the April 3rd, 2025 meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to those draft minutes? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve as presented? You can't, no. Go ahead. Grant, do I have a second? Mayor Kukler, thank you. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Moving on then to our active program management reports, we have John Hodsma here to provide highlights. So the first report is the shared fund status updates.
Morning, committee members. So if you recall from our April meeting, the full obligation extension amount was not used, or partial amount of the obligation extension amount that was extended to the shared fund was not used. So 11.8 million was transferred from the shared fund to the redistribution fund. And that required some reshuffling of the shared fund active program in fiscal year 2025. So what we did, we moved the Sullivan Road project into planned use of redistribution since its target letting date got moved to September 2025. And then the LaSalle Bridge project, which had 44 million total, that amount was split between the active program to fully program the active 2025 year, and then the rest, that remainder, was programmed under planned use of redistribution. No other shared fund projects have been obligated since the April Project Selection Committee meeting. The LaSalle Street Bridge is on target to obligate its funding this month or next in June, at which point it will use the entire shared fund mark, and any other projects that obligate funds in 2025 will be using the redistribution fund. There isn't anything to report on with the contingency program, as it hasn't seen much change. No projects are ready to be moved into the active program at this point. So with that is the status of the shared fund. I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.
Are there any questions for John? All right, if not, you want to give us the accounting update, John?
Sure thing. So the current accounting summary has been updated through the beginning of May. And since our April 3rd meeting, obligations have gone from about 90 million to 104.7 million. And that's what you'll see reflected in the report included in the agenda packet. However, this week, 85 million from the State Lake project was transferred into an FTA grant, which brings that regional obligated total to 184.7 million. That State Lake transfer also means that CDOT has now used their entire mark and have now begun to draw from the redistribution fund. And in addition to CDOT, North Shore have also had some obligations that have brought them up to their mark, and they are now also drawing from the redistribution fund as well. And as if you'll recall, Kane Kendall and Central Council are both already using the redistribution fund. So after accounting for the recent obligations and transfers, there has been a total of 25.8 million in redistribution used in federal fiscal year 2025 so far. There's about another 133.6 million program for planned use of redistribution, which if used would bring the balance down to 35 million at the end of the federal fiscal year. That programmed amount, however, in planned use of redistribution is anticipated to decrease with the upcoming upcoming deadlines for projects, namely the pre-final plans to IDOT. Deadline is tomorrow, May 17th. So that's the last time that projects can, they need to meet that deadline if they're going to make the November 2025 letting, which is the last letting in federal fiscal year 2025. So we'll have a better sense of which projects are on track to use the funding in the next couple of weeks or so, and we'll have that updated, of course, at the next project selection committee meeting. That's it for the regional accounting update. Happy to answer questions if there are any.
Any questions for John on the accounting? I just want to say kudos to CDOT for spending the entire mark this year, and also to the other councils that are tapping into the redistribution. So it's great to see us be able to spend down some of that balance instead of continuing to add to it. So just a shout out to, there's a couple folks online and folks in the room that have done a lot of work to get projects to obligation. So thank you to everybody that has. All right, moving on then to our next most exciting agenda item, which is the recommended FY 2026 through 2030 shared fund active and contingency programs. Before Doug dives in here, I just wanted to remind everyone that our action today will be to approve the shared fund active program. Upon approval, staff will prepare tip changes. Those tip changes will go to the Transportation Committee for approval at their next meeting at the end of this month. And then their approval will be a recommendation to the CMAP Board and MPO Policy Committee for their early June meetings. Doug, take it away.
All right. Thank you. Good morning. The public comment period on the staff recommended STP shared fund program closed on May 2nd. As detailed in the memo included in your materials today, only one comment was submitted. It was from L. Anton Seals Jr. with Grow Greater Englewood Community Group. The comment requested the addition of 5 transportation projects for federal funding under the federal fiscal year 2026 to 2030 call for projects. None of the projects were submitted by eligible sponsors as part of the call, which closed on December 20th, 2024. And so based upon that, staff does not recommend it making any changes to the STP shared fund program. However, staff is committed to holding discussions on what a future process may look like that would consider publicly submitted projects for implementer consideration as an application. So with that, next slide. But since we released the public comment, the program for public comment, staff became aware of a couple of errors in the analysis and also some updated project information that has led to some changes in the recommendations that we're bringing to you today. For the Calumet City State Street Reconstruction Project, the proposed funding was reduced from 16.27 million to 3.5 million because they had an existing project 07200048 that already had 12.78 million programmed for construction. So to reduce duplicating programming funds, we reduced what's being proposed. And then we moved the existing 12.78 million, which was sitting in 2028 out to 2030. And with that additional funding, we're able to move up the Elgin Kimball Street project to 2028 when those funds were originally requested. Additionally, CDOT's Calumet River Bridges project had an error that occurred with the inclusive growth score. The project score increased by 3 points, which moved it to 9th in the rankings and into funding consideration. While the whole 20 million requested could not be accommodated, 13.7 million was added for the project in 2029 for construction. The inclusive growth score also for the Summit 74th Avenue pedestrian bridge was also incorrectly shown as 0 and should have been 6 points. That moved the project ranking up to 14th. With the revised ranking, the project was added to the program for 175,000 for E2 in 2028 and 3.1 million for construction in 2030. So the changes, if you look at the screen, the ones that changed on there are the ones that are circled or boxed in red. But it's also, if you look at the sheet that looks like this, the builder, you can see the fonts that are in red. Those are the changes that were made to the program from what was released for public comment. So with these changes incorporated into the active program, staff requests your approval of the active federal fiscal year 2026 to 2030 STP shared fund program to be recommended to the Transportation Committee on May 30th for their consideration. And with that, I'd turn it back over to Campbell.
All right, thank you, Doug. Before we start any discussion, does someone want to make a motion to approve the program?
I'll move.
Okay, Mayor Kukler, do I have a second?
Second.
Great. All right, any questions or discussion for Doug? None? Everybody's happy? All right. Hearing no further or no discussion at all, those in favor of approving the recommended program signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you, Doug, and to the rest of the CMAP staff for the hard work evaluating these projects and developing a solid program that the committee is pleased with. As Doug noted earlier, the tip changes will be prepared for the TC, the board, and the MPO Policy Committee, and the program will be considered adopted once the MPO Policy Committee takes that action. Also, as we've done in past cycles, all of the project phases that were not recommended for funding that were eligible will be placed in rank order in a new contingency program once we have confirmed with each of those sponsors that they're willing to keep projects moving forward on that contingency list. So, all right, well, thank you very much. Next on our agenda is other business. Does any member of the committee have any other business for the good of the committee? Yeah. Thank you, Grant. I will pass that on to the staff that aren't in the room, and those that are in the room, thank all of you. All right, seeing no other business, does any member of the public wish to make a comment at this time? We did not receive any ahead of the meeting. I see no cards here in the room. Does anyone online wish to make a public comment? If so, please feel free to unmute yourself and state your name and your comment. Going once. Going twice. Let the record reflect that there's no public comment today. All right, with no other business before the committee, our next meeting is scheduled for July 17th. If there are no action items identified for that meeting, it will be canceled a week in advance. So right now, staff's not anticipating any business. The only thing I think we would have is if for some reason the Transportation Committee or MPO made changes to the program, we would come back to the committee with that. But otherwise, we'll provide status updates if we do cancel the meeting. So with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Also move.
All right. Second, Ann. All right, all those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, anybody opposed to adjourning? All right, let the record show that the meeting adjourned at 9:46 a.m. Thank you, everyone.